Goalkeepers, nervous strikers, they'll deliver. Crowd roars erupted, you can feel the quake. 80,000 we never move.
Yes, Chelsea are back. Chelsea back in the Champions League. Wow, wow, wow. Well, the performance was nothing to really write home about. It wasn't a spectacular performance by any stretch of their imagination. You could see that some of the players, have run out of steam. I just hope that this doesn't carry on, to the Conference League final next week. Cole Palmer didn't look his best, although he put in that delightful cross that Pedro for some reason, failed to convert. And then, of course, Noni Madueke didn't look his best. But overall, like I said, in games like this, you win them. You win them. And Chelsea fans, or fellow Chelsea fans, I hope you agree with me that you just take the win. You take a win, make like bandits, and then get prepared for the next game, and then get yourself set for next season. So for me, just take the win, and that's it. But looking at the performance, if you want to break it down as a footballing spectacle, looking at it from a tactical standpoint, it wasn't really inspiring, especially when he had pulled like Noni Madueke. I don't know whether he was playing on sort of weird right back row, similar to what Pedro Neto was asked to do, in the game versus Arsenal. So it kind of seems that was the same thing he was asked to do in this game. And somehow I think Nottingham Forest dominated possession, especially in the first half and even for better parts of the second half. And this just went contrary to, what most pundits were on about. We were like, okay, Nottingham Forest will have lots of possession. Nottingham Forest will sit back and hit on the break and rip Chelsea apart. And what's fun is that pundits both on Sky Sports, ESPN, FC, none of them gave Chelsea a chance to qualify to win against Nottingham Forest. Obviously, Chelsea has not been spectacular this season. But come on, everywhere you turn to, Chelsea will be ripped apart by Nottingham Forest, like they were, prime Bayern Munich. But happy days got the win, and then Colwill getting the goal in the second half. That was nice to see. Take that home, take that 1-0 win and go away with it. But then the question is, now, how do you get yourself prepared for the Conference League game? And the question you want to ask yourself now is, okay, yes, you've got into the Champions League. Does this now open up the purse strings for, likes of Ed Bali, Bowley, Clearly Capital to go out and get you real prime players? Because that has been the excuse. That has been the excuse. And that's one of the reasons some, fans of Clear Lake had given for, Clear Lake not signing Victor Osimhen, saying, his salary demands are too much, and not in Champions League. You don't have the Champions League money, TV right money, to pay for wages. Now you're in there. Now you're in the Champions League. Now you've qualified, you've qualified for the Champions League. So what do? Do you still stick to signing 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, or you go in and sign serious campaigners? And now this poses another question, because for the Conference League, especially the early part of the Conference League, you had sort of two teams where sort of the lesser team played in the Conference League and the sort of better team played in the Premier League. So what would Enzo Maresca do going into the Champions League come next season? Would he be looking to, play the same way? I'm sure most players will want to actually play in the Champions League. Most players will actually want to play in the Champions League. So he has to get that balance right. All the excuses of if one player can play in during the week and not play on the weekend, now that's out the window. That's completely out the window. Now, back to Clearly Capital and Blueco and the rest. If you want to do well in the Champions League now, it's one thing to have qualified for the Champions League, and kudos, even if you left it late in the day, fine. Now, it's another thing to actually give the team the best opportunity, the best chance of playing and finishing well, or going as far as possible in the Champions League. And let me tell you, McGill, Nicholas Jackson, they're not the strikers that would help you go anywhere in the Champions League. They're not the sort of players that will help you go anywhere in Champions League. So now you have to dive into that market and get you that top striker. My number one choice is Victor Osimhen because of what he brings, the intangibles he brings to the play, to the pitch. His leadership, his goals, his tenacity. That's my number one choice. But if for whatever reason you don't want to go for Victor Osimhen, then maybe an Isak. Then who else are you looking to go for? For me, Liam Delap wouldn't cut it. He just wouldn't cut it. Because what lots of people are failing to understand is when you're playing for Ipswich Town, due respect to them, the demands, how you're played, how you're marked is different. It's completely different to when you're like when you start playing for a top side like a Chelsea, when teams want to play against you, they defend differently against you. You don't have as much time on the ball as you would have, if you're playing for a newly promoted side. You don't have, that freedom. You're marked tightly. So Liam Delap, I don't think he can cut it. Now, Enzo Maresca talked about leadership. Talked about leadership on and off the pitch. And you can't be getting me a Liam Delap and expecting him to lead. Because what we would forget is that, yes, 30 million is cute to say, oh, 30 million, that's cheap. And maybe you get to pay me £100,000 a week. That's cheap. Now, that could be cheap on it, on the face of it. But how about the leadership? How about the other intangibles? Because once if Liam Delap is signed at Chelsea, he becomes yet another project striker. He becomes another striker that, okay, let's give him 2-3 years to come good. Yeah, we see potentials. He has high upside, but let's give him 2 or 3 more years to come good. And that means maybe going out early in the Champions League. That means not really competing for, the Premier League. No, I'm just being honest. Now, if the club signs Liam Delap and it comes in and performs well, kudos. No complaints from me. But if he comes in and then struggles and we see signs of inexperience like we see with Nicholas Jackson, and McGee, then no one should be complaining. But for me, quite frankly, this will be the fifth or sixth window. When we get to the summer transfer window, when it officially opens, this will be the fifth or sixth transfer window of this ownership. So you can't still be going to sign experimental players. You must be looking to sign those game changers, those needle movers. That's what you must be looking to do. When people hear me talk about Victor Osimhen so much, people say, "Oh, you're Nigerian, that's why." No, forget about what PR people, merchants will be telling you on Sky Sports, ESPN, FC, on other pundits who don't quite watch it. Watch the strikers you have available. Watch your Isak, watch your Sesko, watch your Liam Delap, watch your Victor Osimhen, and ask yourself, out of all these strikers, who would suit Chelsea the best? Ask yourself, Sesko, can he take that bumping? People really hitting him hard. Can he take it? Can he lead a team? Has he led a team to a title? Has he led a team on a title run? People think this is just talk, but it's really serious. It's really, really important. Has he actually led a team towards the channel, towards let's say a title run, towards qualifying for a Champions League? And the German, has he done that? No, definitely. Liam Delap hasn't done that. So the only two players for me, Isak and Victor Osimhen, those are the players that you should look at. Now I'll just take a quick break, and I'll be back in a minute. Yep, I'm back. So Those are the questions you need to ask. All the striking options that you have available, what do they have those intangibles? Can they guarantee you goals? Isak has shown he can guarantee you goals. Victor Osimhen has shown he can guarantee you goals. Gyökeres, although is in the Portuguese league, he has also shown he can guarantee you tons and tons of goals. Now, the thing about Gyökeres is the one point where you can, sort of, or the one negative you can have about him is this: can he actually play in a team that's not transitional, in a possession dominant team? Can he be that player that can take the ball in his chest and hold on the ball and bring players in? Most of the goals you see Victor Gyökeres score, they're all transitional goals, counter-attacking goals. Goals, nonetheless, goals always count equal, but Chelsea always seeking to dominate possession. How would that work out? How would that work out with Gyökeres? Liam Delap, the same thing. Can he be in a side that's possession dominant and he's still very, very young, inexperienced? Is that what Chelsea should be looking for going into the January window, into this summer window? Because you cannot afford to get this wrong. Happy days, Chelsea qualified for a Champions League in the Champions League sport. That's very, very good. That attracts more sponsors to come in, attract more match day revenues to come in from the Champions League fixtures, obviously, and of course, don't forget the revenues you get for finishing for finishing fourth. So all that is good, but the question is, what would Blue Coat do? What would Blue Coat do? What then is the ambition? Would it still be just spending money, on 5-6 players that may not come good? Because people keep talking about this structure. They keep talking about this structure of, we pay £100,000 to everybody, we pay £40,000 to everybody. But how does that contribute to winning? How does that help you win? That's the question, that Blue Coat, Clearly Capital, they have to answer. Now we had so many excuses. We missed out on Air Jordan sponsorship, sponsorship and partnership, and the excuse was, Chelsea didn't finish in Champions League. Now you're in the Champions League. We missed out on signing a top world-class striker in Victor Osimhen. Said, we missed out on Champions League. Didn't have the money to meet his wages. Now Champions League has been achieved. What I don't want to see is some excuse that, you got this Champions League with Nicholas Jackson as your main striker. Because we know that if Nicholas Jackson had actually taken the chances he's had, Chelsea would have been in the top 4 quite comfortably way before today. Way before today. And for me, I don't want to go into next season, still fighting to qualify for the Champions League and not even competing at all for the Premier League. I don't want to see that next season. That's just my opinion. And now, we're looking at the game. Colwill was okay. Tosin was okay. But the game itself, overall, wasn't that great. I don't think anyone really played that well. Noni Madueke was playing in a weird sort of right back sort of role. I don't quite get it. Until the second half, I think after Chelsea scored the goal, a tweak was made. Enzo Maresca made a tweak where Neto was now on one side and Noni Madueke was on the other. But overall, the game was really poor. But for me, like I said, once you come towards the end of the season and you're close to achieving your goal, you do whatever you can, even if the football is absolute dross. You take your 3 points, you take your top 4 finish and make like band-aids and call it a day. For me, happy with that. But overall, performance, not so good. And then you're heading into the Conference League final next week. I think it's next week, Wednesday. So I just hope this doesn't bleed into that final, because you had all the key players like Palmer that will definitely be playing, in that final. Obviously, he was in this game, he struggled. And then Reece James, I don't think maybe he wouldn't play and Gusto will start in his stead, maybe. And then Lavia came on, so maybe Lavia doesn't get to start. the Conference League final. So let's see what happens with that one. But overall, the game, um, well, let's just keep that aside. Qualify for the Champions League. That's it. But for me, what's more important is yes, you've qualified for the Champions League. Chelsea have qualified for the Champions League. What next? What next? What's the ambition? What are the next steps to take? What does the club want to do? For me, you have to go into the transfer window and not just sign 20, 17-year-olds that wouldn't help you win. It's fine. People are excited. It's Stamford Williams coming in. Good. That's good. Andre Santos coming in. That's good. I think he would really contribute in that midfield. But then that question you have to ask with Andre Santos coming in, with Leslie Guchuku coming back, with Dario Esugo, joining the team, with Caicedo in the team, would Enzo Maresca still decide to invert fullbacks when you have like 4 or 5 6 in the team? Would he still be inverting fullbacks? That's a question that you need to that needs to be answered. Would he still be inverting fullbacks and preventing them from overlapping? That's the question that needs to be asked. What would Blue Coat do with the striking situation? Would it be another 18-year-old, another 21-year-old that lacks experience? Or you go all out and sign you a striker that can really move the needle? And for me, I think Chelsea would just have to go all out there and get a top striker. Because we've known this for years. We've known this, ever since Potter was at the club. Chelsea has needed a striker. So now you've come to this point, you can't afford to fumble this. Yes, qualification for Champions League secured, brilliant. But you want to go into next season. I'm not saying you must win the Premier League next season, but at least compete. Compete. Don't just disappear after December. Compete to the last day, last 2 weeks of the season to go. You're still within a touching distance of the, let's say, of the top side of the side that's topping the league. You can't just fall off. You can't just fall off. Now this opportunity, this should be the chance that Chelsea should. This should be the opportunity Chelsea needs to take. Go on there, go into the transfer window, get the right players you need to get. Right now, you just need 2-3 players, 2-3 players with experience that are ready to come in and have an impact on the team. For me, in addition to Victor Osimhen, with my number one striking choice, you get him. You get a Kevin De Bruyne. For me, he's on a free transfer. You negotiate something with him, get him in because you need that leadership. He's not a sexy name now because he's not a youngster who is 21, who is 19. You need him to come in and contribute and bring that leadership mentality into the dressing room because that's what you need for these young players to really go to the next level. You need someone with that winning mentality to be in that dressing room because sometimes you have a coach saying all he needs to say, but sometimes you need a teammate to actually pull the team. And then you talk about the defense. For me, I think Chalobah is gone. I'm not sure if he will stay. I think he's gone. Chalobah probably will go. But the Shield, for me, he should be going. Disasi, I'm not quite sure. But for me as well, if I had my way, he should go. And then let's see what the likes of Anselmino, Tosin, Colwill, and maybe if you can get a Rudiger, if you get a Tony Rudiger in, that's another leader you're getting in the building. Because for me, it's nice to get all these sexy name players, Estevao William, skillful, playing well in the Brazilian league. So people are already thinking, he's the new Messi. He's the Brazilian Messi that will come and lead Chelsea to the promised land. Well, that's all nice and good, but he's still a youngster. He's still a youngster, and therefore you need leaders on the pitch. Once again, congratulations. So happy Chelsea qualified for the Champions League, especially with the way pundits have been going all through, almost like Chelsea were not even going to have a shout, have a prayer against Nottingham Forest. That's how everyone made it seem. Play Nottingham Forest, Nottingham Forest will sit back, they'll hit Chelsea on the break, and they'll tear Chelsea to pieces. But turned out that Enzo Maresca, Nottingham Forest, if that makes sense. So they were not really, just wasn't really an offensive threat. Nottingham Forest dominated the ball, just got that goal, and that was it. So, but still, that's good, qualify for Champions League. But now you need to get experienced heads into this team. Yes, for me, people talk about this model. Oh, sign a player that can be in the team for 10 years. Now, that is a sexy idea. That's an appealing idea. That's something nice. But you want to compete, you need to get your experienced heads in the team. You need to get experienced heads in the building. And for me, you just need to have three of them. And then you can go on and sign your Brazilian wonder kid, Argentine wonder kid, Nigerian wonder kid. But just get these three experienced players to form the core spine of the team, to form the leadership spine of the team. Now, these are players that don't even need to wear the armband. They don't even need to have captain armband. They don't even need to be named vice captain or vice captain or whatever. They have that leadership in them. Like DJ Drogba at Chelsea, when he was at Chelsea, I think once or twice he wore the captain armband, but he was not a captain per se, but he led the team. He had that leadership in the team. So for me, these are my choices. I'll be going with Victor Osimhen, striker, De Bruyne in the midfield, and get back Tony Rudiger to the team to bring that ruthless edge to the team. Because now everybody having the same nice people, the ball comes to them, they are nice with it. That's it. Well, that tenacity, that leadership mindset, that winning mentality, you need people to have it in the team. And then for me, Ryan Cherky, I think, is a good shout as well. He may not be an experienced player, but I think Cole Palmer is being overworked. That's another thing that we have to look at. He's being overworked. Today again, he looked a bit broken. He's being overworked. We all remember the Wolves game where he was nursing an injury and was being kicked up and down Stamford Bridge, but he wasn't replaced. Enzo Maresca refused to bring on João Felix for him or Nkunku for him for whatever reason. And I think that's one thing that needs to stop going into next season. But at that, adding Ryan Cherky for the price that he's going for, is it £20 million or something like that? Something very ridiculously low. I think he will be a good addition to the team. I don't need numbers right now. What we need, quality. You don't need to sign 10, 15 players. Out of the 10, 15 players, maybe two would come good. Maybe two or three would make the team, and then the rest will be all over Europe. So you need people to win. And then who might say, oh, network clubs. Strasbourg, they also have a limit as to a player they can have. They can't have 50 players. They also have a limit. And if you want to build a franchise, you want to turn Chelsea into a franchise model, your premier franchise, which is Chelsea, should be winning trophies, going far in the Champions League, winning Premier League titles, winning the Champions League, if possible, so that other clubs you may want to acquire, now speaking to Clear Lake and the rest of them, you may want to acquire, look at it to say, yeah, okay, yeah, we see this club, look at the club they own, look at what they're doing, look at how they win, look at how they're performing at a high level. So yeah, it does make sense for us. But for now, you need to focus on winning. No more excuses. We had all the excuses going into this transfer window. A lot of people are saying, oh, they had a deal agreed with Victor Osimhen, but because Chelsea didn't qualify for a Champions League, they didn't quite have the money, to complete the deal. But now we're hearing transfer issues like Garnacho and João Pedro, that are looking to sign them for 50 million apiece. So that means you want to spend 100 million, and even if you say you want to pay them £100,000 each, that's £200,000 in addition to 100 million pounds. And for someone like Victor Osimhen, his buyout clause is about 65 million pounds. So with that money, you can buy Victor Osimhen and still pay his wages. So for me, it doesn't make any sense to sign a Garnacho. Garnacho at Chelsea, no, you can't keep taking Manchester United rejects. No, you just can't keep doing that. You can't keep taking Manchester United rejects, players that don't perform well, and hope that they perform well. Now, speaking about Manchester United players, what do you think about Jadon Sancho? Do you think he should still be in the team? Should Chelsea, pay that £5 million, what they call it now, that £5 million that allows them to send Jadon Sancho back to Manchester United, or should they fork out? Should they come up with the 100? Would they come up with the £25 million the buyout clause, or what they call that, the obligation fee, £25 million obligation fee to sign Jadon Sancho? For me, the thing with Jadon Sancho is this: Jadon Sancho isn't that winger where you just one long ball, he latches onto it with pace to get in behind. Jadon Sancho doesn't have that. What Jadon Sancho has is ability to be on the ball, close control, make his defender look silly, get past them, create assists. That's the kind of winger that he is. He's not the sort of winger that has that pace to go in behind. So if Enzo Maresca wants to go into next season with wingers that can go in behind, hold with, then Jadon Sancho isn't your man. It's not going to work. But he can be someone that can provide something different, but he can't be any of the main wingers. That's a question that Enzo Maresca has to answer. Now, we're done celebrating the Champions League qualification. Now we're talking about Conference League. So, who would you like to see in this Conference League team? Because for me, I think Rob Sanchez probably makes that team. Because for me, Jorgensen, each time he's had the opportunity to snatch Sanchez's gloves, he's always looked afraid. He's always looked incompetent. On the ball, he's way better than Sanchez, light years ahead of Sanchez with the ball at his feet. But when it comes to saving shots against Liga Warsaw, one of the most terrible goalkeeper performances I've ever seen in my life. So do you want Jorgensen to be between the posts, between the sticks, in that Conference League final? For me, I'll go Rob Sanchez, because I think Betis definitely will provide the greatest test that Chelsea have faced all through this Conference League, and that means we'll be facing more shots, more attacking threats, more balls in the air. So I think Robert Sanchez should be the guy to be between the sticks. And then in defense, for me, I think Tosin and Colwill, the centre back pairing could work. Could work for me. Then we're talking about the fullbacks. I think Gusto and Cucurella should be in the fullback positions. And I'm not quite sure if Lavia can play 2 games in a short space of time. If he can, I will go to Lavia and Caicedo. But if he can't, then Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo. And then, of course, Palmer in the 10. But then again, Palmer today really worried me. The way he looked. He looked really tired and shattered. And I laid that at the feet of Enzo Maresca because, for some reason, he refused to rest him. Even when he had Jao Felix, even when he had Nkunku on side, he refused to rest him. Even in games where you would see Palmer struggling or Palmer tired, he refused to change him. So right now he looks shattered. I just hope maybe he has enough rest between now and Wednesday, to get his strength back and then be able to play, because he's very important to Chelsea still. So I'll have Cole Palmer in that 10 role, and on either side on either wing, I would have Pedro Neto and Noni Madueke. Noni Madueke, whatever madness he drank yesterday night to play today, I hope is out of his system, because today was the worst I've ever seen Madueke play. It was so bad today. And then I think what also contributed to how he played today was how Enzo Maresca played him. Enzo Maresca sort of played him in a weird right back hybrid winger role, because it just looked strange to me. I don't know what you think. Let me know in the chats. It looked really, really strange to me. So, but for that game, hopefully he'll come back to his senses. So I'll have Pedro Neto and on Madueke on either wing, on either side of the pitch. And then Jackson, yeah, I'll have to go with Jackson in his striking position. That's what you just have to go with. He's not the best striker, he's not the most clinical striker, but that's all we've got going into an European final. That's all you've got, that's all you have to go with. So hopefully that proves to be enough. But Anthony is going to be a problem for sure. Chelsea just, Cucurella has to be on his game 100%. But one thing I like about Cucurella is this: Cucurella is one of those players that if you say, I want you to mark that player, Cucurella will do it 1000%. I want you to frustrate that player. Cucurella is one of those players, those old school defenders that can mark up the player. So, so hopefully Chelsea can win that one. And then after that, the work starts for me. I think the likes of Nicholas Jackson, maybe he thought to be a left winger, or he goes left winger or second striker. The strikers you sign the striker to come in, you sign a midfielder to come in, and you sign a central defender to come in. That's how I see it going forward. So, what are your thoughts and opinions on this game? Thoughts and opinions, on the Conference League final? For me, Chelsea cannot afford to lose that final, because the shame, it would be pure utter shame not to win, that final, because first off, it's a competition that Chelsea shouldn't have been in at all. But if you end up being in that sort of final, then you must win it. So it's just like, me going to fight John Jones. If John Jones decides to fight me, he must beat me. So if I beat him by any way, hook or crook, then it's pure utter shame. So the same thing. Chelsea really were not meant to be in the Conference League, should be Europa League, worst case scenario, and Champions League should be the ultimate expectation. But we wound up finding ourselves in, the Conference League. So if you go to the final, you have to win it. No excuses. I have to win it, because for me, I don't want to see Chelsea back in the Conference League. You win it, take the trophy, add it in the trophy cabinet to say, oh, you've got all the European trophies, but you don't want to revisit it, so that's gone. And at this point, coming towards the end of this video, but before that, I want to know your thoughts and opinion on the game. What are your thoughts on the game? How Chelsea played? Those opinions going into the summer transfer window. What sort of business you want, Chelsea to do? You're happy with the team? You're happy with having Nicholas Jackson as the primary striker? Maybe Nicholas Jackson might give you, and then maybe they may look to add João Pedro. Would you be happy with that going into next season? For me, no way. No. People forget João Pedro. I keep saying this. If you play for Brighton, you play for Ipswich Town, you may look good, you may have fairly okay numbers. But the question is, can you perform when that huge expectation for you to perform every week is on your shoulders? Can you actually perform? So that's the question out there. So at this point, I've come to the end of this video, and hopefully I'll see you on yet another video. So stay well and stay blessed.